So the big question is how do health experts like you and I generate more income, impact more people, and create businesses that work around their lifestyle and serve their family at the highest possible level? If you want the answer to that question, then you're in the right place at the right time. Whether you're a dietitian, a nutritionist, or a nutrition coach, this is for you. My name is Dr. Javier Carlin, and I want to welcome you to the Practice Revolution. We are a movement that is revolutionizing the way private practices are built so you can practice on your terms. So go ahead and join us and follow along as we learn, apply, and share the top business growth strategies that we're using to grow our own business and to help you grow yours, using only the best insights and advice from top industry leaders. So thank you so much for listening. Enjoy the show. Welcome back to the Practice Revolution podcast. I'm here, your host, Dr. Javier Carlin. I'm here with a very special guest. Today we have Lindsey McGregor. She is a registered dietitian and the founder of the Dietitian Directory. I'm super excited to have her here to share with you a little bit about her journey and how the Dietitian Directory came to be and how she has an amazing opportunity for you to get more exposure, reach more people, so you can help more people, make more money, and change people's lives, including your own. So Lindsey, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Oh, thanks for having me. I always feel very inspired when I talk to you. So I think it'll be a great conversation.
Absolutely, 100%. So Lindsey, why don't we tell everyone, the listeners, a little bit more about yourself, your backstory, and how we got to where you are today?
Yeah, I think my favorite thing about the Dietitian Directory is the backstory and how it is so relatable for so many dietitians who just kind of have those moments of feeling a little bit meh. And, you know, so it was about 2017 when I was meeting with a bunch of dietitians for a garden party for a cookbook launch. And all these private practice dietitians were coming in, and I had no idea who they were, even though they were amazing master's degree level trained dietitians in my community. And I had no idea who they were. And they had blogs, they had websites, but nothing was all connected. And the city that I'm from, it's Calgary. And Calgary's pretty small. But I just had this dream, like this little tiny dream inside of me to connect the dietitians who had blogs in my city. That's all I wanted to do. I'll just make it all in one place so that I could see what was going on in the city, so that I could read people's thoughts and like really kind of relate and learn something too. And so sitting at this garden party, I just was drinking my glass of wine. And I told everyone that this would be a great idea. And everyone kind of was like, yeah, that's a great idea. And then there was just something in my heart that kind of picked it up and decided to run with it. And I just started looking places. I started trying to connect with people, trying to see if anyone else had any thoughts around this. And I actually got connected with one person who was in private practice, and she really helped me get started. And she and I were together kind of creating the website business for about 6 months. And she was really introducing me to the world of private practice. I had always worked in government, and I just thought it was very interesting how she was thinking differently, a lot differently than I was thinking about how to run a business. And I was picking up on all the things that she was saying. And I think the level of self-belief and the level of connecting the dots and knowing our freedom to do that, and the credential that or the authority that being a registered dietitian allows us to do and do so. And we got to a point where we had a nice overseas website built. And then it was probably about 2018 when it started to work. So June 2018. And it was just a project, I think still probably under like maybe $2,000 had gone into it. So it was just a side project. And then I took some time off, like just life kind of got in the way. And then I only really picked up the website kind of in like the summer of 2019 and got back at it, just kind of pushing away at it. And then the first person that I was working with, she left my side. And then she just didn't feel like there was like the right fit with her. And then all of a sudden, this other lady named Bree, who's a dietitian in Canada, who focuses on SEO for dietitians, Bree Bell. She works with the Frugal Kitchen, and she helped me see that I had a really great opportunity. She just loved the name Dietitian Directory. She loved how it was a quick backlink, and she helped me understand SEO in a way that was to a level of competence, I thought. And she really helped show me what I could do on my own rather than having to pay somebody for. And then our website, probably by the end of 2019, had kind of got close to 100 members on it across Canada for free. And then I think that so that was kind of like early 2020. The game changer was March 2020, where things really, really changed. Everyone was dealing with COVID. I was working as a dietitian in the ICU. And I ended up, because I was scared and lonely, joining a business group for entrepreneurs, like just like on Facebook. There's an opportunity to be with women who are entrepreneurs in my city, who want to have a glass of wine at the end of the day. And I just joined because I was scared and lonely. I didn't know anything about business. But the pandemic was very interesting because it allowed me to move away from people in my life who were maybe doubtful of the project. And it caused me to step towards it. And then I was still with Bree Bell at the time. And then I was moving forward with the Dietitian Directory. And I was able to get a lot of volunteers to like write for the Dietitian Directory to build like contributions to it. So I was starting to use the talents and skills of a lot of people who were in university and didn't really have opportunities to work in other capacities. And so that was really good at that point in time. But the big game changer was when I started to go on walks with a friend of mine who was a dietitian in private practice. And she helped me start to kind of, instead of doubt what I could do, start talking about what I could do. And she had a bunch of dreams of her own, and we'd always walk and talk during this pandemic time because we couldn't really talk about anything else. We only had our hopes and dreams to talk about. So we'd walk and talk, and she really helped convince me that there was something to the directory. And then I just kind of kept going with it. And then in 2021, in July, I ended up kind of scaling it up, investing from the like old overseas built platform to something that's built in the city in Calgary. And people followed me where I went. And I was finding that people were making over like 5 figures annually by being part of the website. And it was just a change or shift in mentality that was brought on by the pandemic, because I really stepped away from people who were more doubtful towards people who really had that entrepreneurial gift or spirit around them. So I think it was really a testimonial to how you have to be around the right people in order to create. And then I also at the same time had dealt with some health issues, and some that were really like the level of between me and God. and I never had really like embraced faith before, but I took just because I needed it. I took a 12-step program that was for people with no real addictions, but just with kind of heavy things in their life that they needed to move past, thought processes or feelings or doubts. And I ended up through taking this for like a health related reason. And it helped me believe in myself, and that self-belief of, my own worthiness, my own story of I am enough. And then faith really helped pull everything together as well. So a bunch of things were happening in my life simultaneously to help create this dietitian directory. That's all.
Yeah, that's amazing. There is so much to unpack there, Lindsay. And so thank you so much for sharing about the journey to get you to where you are now. You know, I heard quite a few things there. I heard the power of your network and being around the right people and being in the right environment. I think that's huge. The second piece was definitely having faith and having faith over doubt, right? And so the power of being able to kind of see things working for you, and a lot of that going back to the first thing is like who you have around you, right? If you have people who are constantly kind of trying to bring you down or say, no, that's silly, that might not work or that won't work, versus people who are like, oh my goodness, like that's a great idea, you should definitely do it, right?
Mm.
It kind of brings a different level of energy and excitement around it, which creates that anticipation for you to actually take action on the things that you want to do. And so I think that's a beautiful thing. So I know one of the first things that you mentioned were you met someone, I forgot who it was specifically, but they just saw the world a little bit differently and had different perspectives. And they had a few kind of like mindset shifts or ways that they saw, you know, the world or life and business. So I'm curious if you recall maybe one or two of those big like mindset shifts that they at least started to help you see, you know, a few years back. And yeah, do you remember what those were?
Well, I think that sometimes in like I think sometimes when you work for maybe a government or like a public institution,
Mm-hmm.
your credential and you kind of feel like that power is bestowed on you because of your credential, rather than kind of being out there in the world and being like, hey, like I have this credential in addition to I can really help you, and these are the ways that I can help you. And I think also to just being able to kind of see all the opportunities and then do the cost benefit analysis too. So being able to use capital, that's something I never thought of, is like, okay, what's the return on investment here? And like, what's just fun money to spend, but like, what's the return on investment? And that's something that never crossed my mind as, a way of thinking. So always just thinking about, okay, what can I do with capital? What's the return on investment? And then kind of making a pro and con list and being really, I guess logical about things,
Yeah.
and moving forward with things that make sense on paper, and kind of thinking that like chances are no one else is connecting these dots. So
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's huge because at the end of the day, like, and I think you mentioned, you know, being in that kind of government environment when you were working for the government specifically, I feel, you know, and this might be a little bit controversial, but a lot of the times, like having and not just in this case, but just in general, a lot of people look for the government or someone else to save them, right?
Mhm.
It's like, oh, like it's okay, they're going to take care of us. And I think a lot of that mentality even happened throughout like the pandemic and COVID, where the government was, you know, handing out money to people, and that's great. And I think it was needed at the time and super helpful. But it does kind of create like this victim mentality, and a lot of people need to realize that at the end of the day, it's up to them to make the decisions and do something about it, to really have the life that they want. And so I think that's super important. And then the second thing, the idea of looking at things as an ROI, because it's so interesting, right? I don't know how it is specifically in Canada, but you know, it's so normal for us to pay, you know, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to school, right? For me as a physical therapist, you know, it was over $100,000 in student loans that I had to take out to get my doctorate degree, right?
Wow.
And we don't even think about it. It's just like, oh, it's just what you do. But then when it comes to like investing in yourself and your business and ideas, for whatever reason, it feels a lot harder to do that, or it feels like risky, right?
Mhm.
And so it's a really interesting dynamic, right?
Well, and the other thing too is you thinking about like investing in an idea you have
Yeah.
rather than investing in, especially for women, like a new purse. or a new something that signals that success.
Yeah.
But, is it really the greatest expression and truest expression of like all the divine power inside of you?
Mm.
And is it like kind of creating that service and that generosity? And like, I'm all for like nice purses, I'm all for nice shoes, like look great, like,
Yeah.
but I think that life just becomes more interesting and a lot more fun when you start thinking about what can you do and what are the dots you're seeing, being connected, and like really, really paying attention to it. But sometimes it takes things slowing down too. Like the pandemic was a great time for
Oh
things to
yeah.
slow
I think a
down.
lot of people realized, or took a step back and were like, what am I doing with my life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I feel like always happens to me is I'm in the shower and I just have great ideas. It's like this miracle idea machine is when
Yeah.
and I think that that's really a sign that like what I'm doing is like really true and what's in my heart and what I should be doing, because I don't kind of consciously try and do it to impress anyone.
Yeah.
I'm happy to kind of be like living my quiet life, making this helpful
Yeah.
directory for dietitians, that should essentially blast everyone and tell them like, here is the authority of dietitians out here, and here's how to get them.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not
That
really about me. It's about enabling all the other entrepreneurs out there to do it, be themselves, and help people and have a good time doing it as well. But
yeah.
also like helping people do what they do best and be able to like step into that power of really helping people and serving others in the way that they have that strongest passion for. Like I don't think a lot of people go into dietitian school like to market, to spend all their time marketing, right? They want
Right.
to really be out there helping people.
100%. Yeah. And so, yeah, so again, so many good things that we could go into. Back to your point about the investing in like, or buying purses and nice things, like those things are great.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like the idea of like, assets versus liabilities, and like I think what people need to realize is that they are the asset. Like people are the greatest asset. And when you invest in yourself and you start to have these ideas and see these possibilities and get these opportunities, the sky is the limit. Whereas investing in a purse, yeah, it's nice in the moment, but it doesn't really produce anything else outside of that for you. And then the second part to that then is that you're buying something that externally makes you look good and makes you feel good, but internally doesn't really do a lot for you in terms of being able to kind of expand your mindset and grow as a person. So I think that's definitely something really important to point out. And again, it's not that it's bad to do those things, but it's like, what's the priority, right? The priority should always be the person and your your skill set.
And the other thing that is amazing is, speaking about like just return on investment.
Mm-hmm.
Starting a private practice is so affordable for people, like to make some extra money on the side of what they're already doing, or just trying to like put their toe into the water is
Yeah.
so accessible for people, between like just a easy a couple of membership fees for a few listing sites, and like business cards and a Zoom membership and a professional platform. It's actually you can get your nails done like once or twice a month, or you could start a business. It's pretty wild that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's so true. That's so
Mm.
true. Because the crazy thing is that wasn't the case, back in the day, even just like 10, 15, 20 years ago. Like to start a business, you needed like a large loan, 50,000, 100,000 to get the brick and mortar location, to buy equipment, to hire a team, to do all these things right off the bat. And to your point, like that's not necessary anymore. With a few $100, $1,000, you can get your practice up and going. And so I think, what you offer with a directory is so needed and so great because, like you were mentioning, we don't learn marketing in school, right? We don't know how to put ourselves out there. We're never taught any of that. And so this is a tool that helps them, take the step in the right direction in terms of getting their name out there. And then, the second thing I always tell people to invest in before anything else is like, if you need clients to grow your business and you don't know how to get clients to grow your business, like that's probably the first thing you should be investing in is tools and resources like what you have to help with that. And then also the education and skill set of how to do that, because we didn't get it anywhere else. And so, yeah.
Yeah, and then there's also been a few simple things that I've noticed people on the site who do get clients. Like
Yeah.
there's just some people who, like, everyone's profile is fairly similar
Mhm.
and the areas are fairly similar, but there's some people who will just get more clients than others. And here's what I've noticed. People who have invested in a very good professional photo shoot. And I mean, I think that people can kind of have a passable, like, really great photo,
Mhm.
blazer in front of a fruit stand. Find a fruit stand, find a farmer's market, get a blazer on, get your friends out, take a picture with like a really good Apple phone. But you can just tell such a different quality when you have a professional photographer take the picture. So
Mhm.
that is so important. And I've heard from, like, kind of my more like business people or like web people that it makes a huge difference, the physical picture, the image, the impression.
Mhm.
I don't like to think about that, but I really hear that anchors a lot of
Yeah,
people's choices. And
absolutely.
then the other things that I notice are the people who are out, like, pushing their profiles around on the web. So for example, if you live in a small town, like, put your profile on your town's marketplace, put your profile wherever you're able to, that's kind of local to you, because that's where people might just kind of stumble upon you, and just kind
Mhm.
of get that traffic. But you have to get a little bit of traffic yourself. You got to share it with your friends, your family, your mom, your
Yeah.
network, all those things in order to get a little bit of traffic. And then from that little bit of traffic comes more traffic, especially with the way like Google and SEO work. The other thing is always focusing on how you can help the customer
Mhm.
first in your bio. Don't focus on your academic credentials first thing. People want to know how they can be helped at their pain point and have that served and, like, taken care of. Like, they have a problem, they need it solved, rather than hearing about your wonderful accomplishments in life.
That's
So those are
that's
some of the tips.
it sounds so simple, everyone, but that's a huge mistake that we see so many people make is talking about how awesome they are. But there's that, wonderful quote that no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care.
Mhm.
And so by letting them know how you can help them and what problems you solve for them, that's what's going to actually excite them and hook them and want to find out more about how you could potentially help them. So that's huge, Lindsey. Thank you for sharing
Well,
that.
and the other thing too is, like, how many times have you listened to like a podcast of somebody who's not that qualified, but they're talking about ways that they can help you? And
Yeah.
then, you would like to ideally like hear that they're like really qualified, but they're not at the end, right? But we're the opposite, right? It's like you hear somebody, like, here's how they can help you. And then at the end, hey, like, they're actually really well qualified. Yeah. So
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. No, that's exactly right. Um, Very, very cool. And I think I just wanted to kind of bring back um the idea of faith. And so I know, you went through the 12-step program, and it sounds like that really had a profound effect on your life in terms of faith and belief. And I think a lot of people have a little bit of a misunderstanding when it comes to faith in general, and also faith in themselves. And I think
yeah,
there's a lot of people that say they have faith, but they live in a lot of fear and doubt. And so
right.
I wanted to ask you, like, what's been your experience kind of like going through that and having more faith in like the day to day and the things that you do, and maybe share some insights for other people on how they can do it too.
Yeah. So I think that like, so that same year that I was dealing with a health issue, I was also working as the dietitian in the ICU as well. And
Mm.
that was COVID 2020. So there were a lot of days where I just like looked at myself in the mirror and I'm like, I can get through the day. But somehow I started a business and did this all at once. But what I realized through taking a 12-step program, kind of the short Coles notes here. One is the circle of control, like identify the things in terms of your business that are within your circle of control and the things that are outside of the circle of control. Spend more time in your area of control and just keep focusing on that area, because that's your power, that's your value, like that's what you can do. And that's where you're really going to levitate out of that victim mentality into the I can do this mentality. So really focusing on that in every single decision you're making with your business. The other thing too is with a doubt, everyone doubts themselves. Like it's very interesting to start to see this. Like there are probably some people out there who are just like naturally like very, very confident people. But for me, it was more of a process where I had to go through the stories that I was telling myself. And one of the stories I had to work through. So I had carried this story for like 15 years. And it was about my internship, and one of my preceptors, her famous words to me were, I can't give you any feedback. I can't tell you what you're doing well because you're actually failing everything. So I remember that, and how unhelpful it was at that time.
Wow.
And how that always caused me to have that tiny bit of imposter syndrome ever since hearing that, right? So but here I was working in the ICU in the heat of a pandemic, and I still had to sit down and undo that pain undo that story that this lady had kind of, like it was me who took on the story, but it was somebody who was in the position of power who kind of gave me that story.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think that undoing those stories and trying to understand what is true in that from a more loving, more self-compassionate, more forgiving perspective can be really helpful. So I think that it would be good for anyone who's a dietitian who feels like, why do I feel this twang of doubt in myself every day? Check those stories from your internship and your early times working as a dietitian, and also to the competition that takes place in like school. It's just a lot. It causes a lot of doubt throughout. Yeah. And the other thing too is it helped me even with like body shame as well. So I was able to look at some of the stories I told myself even about like body and the way I look at myself in terms of my physicality, and to undo those as well. And it was just really really freeing, very liberating. And really at the end of it, most people should get the answer that they're enough, and the stories that they tell themselves when just growing up or going through the lumps and bumps of life kind of occlude that clarity that you are enough in this world, and how competent you actually are. And then and then this was like kind of the kicker though. I wasn't one of those people who was like much for prayer or anything like that. But at the end of my first 12-step program, so about, this was 5 or 6 months in, I had applied for a loan with my, not a loan, but like a government grant with the Dietitian Directory to have a like employee's salary paid. And in this case, I had called up the government and I asked them, oh, like, is this grant coming through? And they're like, no, lady, we don't see it anywhere. Like, really, like, go away. And then I just remember feeling like, oh, this is the one thing I really, really need to get my project to a business. Like, this is the one thing I need. And then I felt so powerless at the time that I just got curled up in a ball and I just prayed because I was like, I crossed the T's, I dotted the I's, and then I got on my knees and prayed. And then for whatever reason, I ended up having this one lady who like a couple of weeks later just reached out to me. She was doing her degree at NYU, and then she was in Hong Kong because of the lockdown, and she was becoming a dietitian. And she called me up and she said, "Hey, can I volunteer for you for the summer, full time, for free?" And so we're on Zoom, we're Zooming with each other. And I'm like, how did this happen? And then I looked down on the corner of the screen and her name is Trinity. And I was just like, ooh, ooh. She was wonderful. And then actually a few weeks later, I found out that the government funding came in, and the person I ended up employing, her name was Krishna. Which, yeah. So anyway, I just felt like there's, sometimes, science, like the cause 3 times, but there's some like real arrows. And so that really helped me out, I thought. But it was really just by me kind of getting out of those stories of not being enough, letting go of a lot of anger, letting go of a lot of things that were not in my circle of control. It allowed me to receive these signs and to the abundance of what is out there.
That's so good. That's so good.
Yeah.
So much again that we can dive into there.
Yeah.
But I think, a takeaway for everyone. I mean, there's so many, but one of them for sure is that we create stories in our minds about what we think is or should be. And a lot of those beliefs and those thoughts that we have aren't even ours. They were implanted into our minds by someone else with either, good intentions, bad intentions, or that was just their life. And so that's all they knew how to be. And so I think kind of just being aware of the thoughts that cross our mind and ask ourselves, like, why do I think that way? And is that really true?
That's
Right?
true.
Yeah. Is that true? And then, the word story is so important because these are stories and these are stories that we make up about the future, which means many of the stories that people make are stories that disempower them, cause anxiety or fear. But at the end of the day, they're stories that you make up. And so if you have the ability to make up stories, might as well make up stories that empower you. Might as well make up stories of success and happiness and love, and how the ideas that you do have are going to be impactful and change the world. Because that's all it is at the end of the day, they're stories. And so I think that's very important for people to realize, is that you do have control over your thoughts, and thoughts create feelings. Those feelings lead to actions. If you're feeling inspired, you're going to take inspired action in the direction of your dreams, and those actions lead to results. And so it all starts with your thoughts and how you think about the world and yourself and the people in it. And I think that's a very powerful thing to remember.
And I think the one other thing too is sometimes like undoing those thoughts, like sometimes you put barriers in the way. You're like, oh, that'll be so expensive to take this program, or it'll be so expensive to, or like difficult to do. But actually those thoughts, changing the thoughts, it's free to do. It's just what's in your head. It's just what's in your head. And finding good people to be around, that's free. It's free to do as long as you start vibing with them where they're at, rather than just being misery loves company. Like there's always somebody for that at the bar, but really spot those people who are like the lighthouses.
100%. And that goes back to like where you started the conversation, is like the environment, the people that you're around. So key. In fact, like we have really good friends where we're living here in the Tampa Bay area that we've known for years, and they're all entrepreneurs. And we basically told each other, like, if you ever hear something come out of our mouth that's a limiting belief or a story of why we can't, let us know, like check us. And is everyone comfortable with being challenged about the thoughts or words that come out of our mouth, so we can just be better? And so that's kind of something that we do for each other now, without, feeling disrespected or anything like that. It's just like, thank you for making me aware of what I just said, when in fact it's not true. So
yeah, and I think it's just a way that you can be tethered, like you can be tethered to reality. It's not like you and your friends kind of go and hang out and be all delusional, and it's and that's fun too, right? But I think that you can be tethered to just the more loving, compassionate reality that there is. And that we should all be successful, that there's
Yeah.
unlimited potential for all of us, and we're not, trying to like all eat out of the same pie. We're all able to access our greatest expression of ourselves, and it's not really going to get in the way of anyone else.
Right.
There's so much abundance out there.
100%. 100%. Yeah, we hosted a class this past weekend. We did a one-day workshop, and we were literally talking about that man-made pie, and a lot of people think there's only enough pie to go around, whereas God, the universe, whatever you believe in, right, made fruit, right? You don't have to, you don't make fruit in the kitchen, like it comes from the ground. And what happens with fruit, apple falls from an apple tree onto the floor, it has seeds, it grows more fruit, and that happens forever. It's unlimited and abundant, and that's how life actually works. And so this is
definitely more fun.
Definitely. And way more fun, fun. But this has been awesome, Lindsey. I feel like we can talk about all of this for hours and hours on end. Let me ask you this: what in terms of, I know you have a lot going on with the Dietitian Directory. I guess what advice would you have? First and foremost, what advice would you have for dietitians out there who are considering starting their practice, already have started it, maybe they're having some challenges along the way? What advice would you give to them, and maybe some words of wisdom for them to really, keep moving forward?
Well, one thing that came to my mind is I run a business group for dietitians on the Dietitian Directory, and it's free and for anyone who's a member. And we just talk about our challenges and barriers. So we've cultivated a community, and it's people, like, it's very common, like this, like everyone has kind of the same growing pains, but when you talk about them with others, it just becomes so much easier. So I would say that, and I think that would be my, and you don't have to join that, say, Dietitian Directory, but just join a community of people who are entrepreneurial minded. And you might be able to find that through like community events or anything really. But it's going to be good if you can talk to dietitians who are in your area and your region, so they'll know like some of the more local specificities of starting a practice. That's all.
Definitely. No, that's great advice. Lindsey, where can people find you online and learn more about you and the work that you've done?
Dietitiandirectory.com.
Beautiful. I also know that you have a special promotion going on right now. So if you don't mind sharing with the audience what that is and how they can get access to it.
Yeah, it is 2023 free. That's the promo code, 2023 free. And you can get 12 months free with the Dietitian Directory. Just try us out, see how it goes. I think you're gonna...
Did you say 12 months? Holy
12
cow, 12 months, guys. That's for those of you that don't know, that's a full year. That's a full year. That's amazing. Lindsey, again, thank you so much for joining us today. I know our listeners got tons of value from this conversation, and I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Likewise.
Awesome. All right, everyone. Until next time. Hey, what's up? Thank you so much for watching the show. I know your time is super valuable, and I know that you're here to learn how to grow a successful practice. So I have something special just for you. If you are a health expert who is in business or aspiring to be, and you're curious about how to grow a profitable, impactful practice, you're going to want to pay attention. Because as a person who is watching the show, I want you to win. So I've created a bundle of resources exclusively for those who are watching the Practice Revolution. So if you are tired of trying to figure out this game of business, marketing, and sales all on your own, and you're ready to implement what's already proven to work rather than reinventing the wheel, you're going to want to send us a private message on Instagram at The Practice Revolution. And simply just let us know that you watched this show, and we'll personally hand over $7,000 worth of trainings, resources, and coaching that is available only for those who are watching this show on YouTube. So if you want to know how to increase your income, impact, and build a practice that works for the lifestyle that you want and that serves your family at the highest level, send us a private message on Instagram at The Practice Revolution. Do it now so you can win big in your practice and in your life. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next show.